This is the Broodcast on Poets at War, Inkling-style Discord chat, last Friday of every month. And now, the Broodcast.
Hello, sir.
No.
Good to see you.
15 FPS webcam.
Do what?
I think my webcam's at about 15 FPS.
Oh, it's looking fine to me.
Yeah, it's looking okay.
Really fast.
Yeah.
By the way, is my mic sound weird? Does my mic sound weird?
It just sounds low quality. If you have another mic, you might be chosen the wrong one. But I don't know. But it's no big deal.
It's like
you're perfectly understandable.
Are you hearing like warbling?
Not warbling, no.
No?
Okay.
Just an echoey room. As far as what you're doing, Alex, the other thing as far as that goes is figure out what your law of diminishing returns is on how many pages and be gracious with yourself.
Fair enough.
So
how do you balance that with trying to set a deadline of 2 years, though?
You don't. You push it out.
Yeah.
The other option is what Doug does in it, where he talks about filling empty space. Right?
Yeah.
So if you have your thing that you do daily, plus in between space, carrying the book with you, you're gonna eventually get it done.
Fair enough.
So it depends on how you want to go about it. You could totally go about it the way you're doing, and like you said, crack the whip. But you also have the other option of giving yourself some grace and really figuring out law of diminishing returns on your retention, and pushing yourself to the limit on that, but not any further,
Yeah.
So, because 50 pages is a lot to retain in a single day. It's not impossible, but it's a lot.
Yeah. The flip side of the thing that's helping me retain it is that anytime I find something interesting, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, totally.
Which is also increasing the amount of time that it takes to read the pages.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
especially less so with the second book in the set is Journal of John Woolman.
Right.
So it's less so with him than it was with Franklin, but with Franklin's autobiography, I was stopping every probably every 10 pages or so.
Right.
And writing something down, interesting comment, new word, that type of stuff. And that just ate time.
Right.
So, balancing.
You want to tell Aaron what you're doing?
Yeah. The red bookshelf that I have in the back of a lot of the videos. Have you seen that?
Maybe.
Okay. It is the Harvard Classics set, 5-foot shelf of books. Created by Dr. Charles Eliot in the early 1900s, 1911, I believe. Basically, his idea was, this is everything that you would learn at Harvard. This is all of the books that you would read. This is what you need for a liberal education in 5 feet of bookshelf. So it's everything from, as I mentioned earlier, Autobiography of Ben Franklin, to Plato's Republic, to Confessions of Augustine, Plutarch's Lives, the Aeneid, Divine Comedy, Burke on the French Revolution, Chaucer, Machiavelli, Luther, all that fun stuff. 22,000 pages in total. And I've said, I kind of decided that if I actually want to be educated, then I have to start working towards it. And so I'm attempting basically an associate's degree, trying to get it done in 2 years.
22,000 pages.
22,000 pages.
22.
Yep, 22,000 pages. If I'm reading, if I'm trying to get it done, working 5 days a week at it, I need to read 44 pages a day. 5 days a week. And I'll have it done in 2 years. I'm rounding 44 up to 50 and trying my best from there.
22,000, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's 30 pages.
For 7 days a week. He's saying 5.
Yeah, for 7 days a week.
Hey, Brendan.
Hello.
Okay.
How are you, friend?
Hello. Exhausted. How are you?
Mostly the same. In Alpharetta at my mom's house, chilling. Stuff going on.
Alpharetta?
Yeah.
Alpharetta?
That's right.
That's not Atlanta. I thought you were from Georgia.
I know, right? That's actually a big joke. It's like, are you from? Oh, you're from Georgia. It's one of two things. Most of the time, Atlanta, Peaches, Migos, Usher, A-Town, Peace Up, A-Town Down. But then the other one is occasionally people will go, oh, I love Gone with the Wind. And I'm just like, you do realize that there's a whole other kind of culture, particularly in southern Appalachia in the north part, of which I'm from, in the foothills. It's like, come on.
Well, it's like Georgia is Atlanta, Tennessee's Nashville.
Right.
Indiana is either Indianapolis or Notre Dame. Not even South Bend.
Or the
Notre
other
Dame
corn
is
state.
Notre Dame. Yeah, Ohio's corn. Missouri. Not Missouri.
Iowa's
No, yeah,
corn.
Missouri.
Iowa is also corn.
Iowa's corn. Wisconsin is cheese. And Madison.
Which, funny enough,
Oklahoma is just Oklahoma.
I was going to say, Oklahoma isn't... Oklahoma is non-Euclidean space.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oklahoma is, look at that weird border. It was caused by slaves. Oh, also in Native Americans.
Well, I was saying Oklahoma is plains and tornadoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh.
Though whenever I was in Louisiana, I did get asked, Oklahoma, do you guys have tornadoes there? So that was an experience for me.
Georgia, do you guys have hot summers?
Maine, do you guys have frozen winters?
And really big cats? Anyway. There's some Maine Coons that are wandering my my mom's neighborhood now. And every time I look outside, I'm like, holy cow, that is a large cat. I don't know if you all know what Maine Coon breed, but good gracious, those things are huge.
I have never seen them.
Coons are chunks.
Yeah. Look up Maine Coon. It's like the state and then COON. Yeah, it's a giant cat. It's one of the largest domestic cats. So, it's like bobcat sized. Some of them probably way more than bobcats, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah, they're huge.
They're pretty.
They are.
Well, you're on Google, so all the cats that you see on Google are the ones that got 5 stars in their photo.
It's true.
That's fair. Actually, I'm not on Google. I'm on Bing. These are
What-
the cats that got 3 stars.
When will the standards for cats be made realistic? Go learn it.
I was waiting for that joke to be made. I didn't want to make it myself, but I was waiting for the joke to be made.
Oh, I needed you guys. Oh, boy.
It seems like it's been forever since we did one of these.
I know, right? Well, I mean, last month was December, so yeah, a lot happened.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, January was long this year, man.
Yeah. It's true. Hazel's 6th birthday is on the 3rd. So that's
Ah.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
Was your little one with your wife in the breakdown today? Yeah?
No.
No? Okay.
She dropped him off at the parents
Mhm.
so that the parents could babysit him, and then she was on her way from the parents to the house she was going to clean,
Ah, okay.
and the breakdown happened.
Gotcha.
So Dad went and rescued her. Then he came and got me, so because we couldn't get into contact with the dealer, not the dealer, the mechanic via phone.
Right.
And then we went over to the parents' house and we just hung out there for a while, and then we took their car back.
Yep.
So we have a very nice car that isn't ours.
For a while, anyway.
For a few days.
Yeah. Yep. Well, glad. It seems like, at least at the moment, all's well that ends well. So.
Yeah, we'll see what the actual cost it comes back as, but shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, we're paying about $50 a week on our repair right now that we're trying to get paid off. So crazy. I think Abigail said she might show up.
There he is.
There's the Wilsons. What up? They're coming in. It always takes a moment. There we go. Good to see you all. Or hear you all, at least. Abigail says she'd probably be on. We'll see if that happens. I haven't heard from Sarah specifically. She's trying to get Logo Sophia together so I can get it edited next week. This coming week. And don't think there's anybody else specifically who might be on, but we'll see. What's up, Ian?
Hello, Ian.
Howdy.
What's up, man?
Master Wilson.
What?
He said Master Wilson.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Hold on. He's
like, we're in the north.
younger.
We don't have slaves.
I'm from the north.
I know you are. Anyway.
I'm from just as far north as they are, possibly.
Probably
I don't actually
not.
know the latitudinal. I might not be quite as far north, but
Where are you from, bro?
Connecticut.
He's in Indiana.
No, I
Are
live
you?
in northern Indiana, right on the border of Michigan.
But you were from Connecticut.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, we're quite a bit north than you.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're up near Canada, bro.
Oh, they are
Yeah,
now. Oh, you are up near Canada. Okay.
Yeah. We're like same level as the UP of Michigan.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So then you got me beat on there.
Yes.
I think we have some Florida people, so they're further south than I am. Abigail has the possibility of being further south, but I kind of doubt it. I'm trying to remember who's our
No.
Florida people.
No, she lives in Albuquerque.
Okay, so, but like Augusta and Albuquerque, I have no clue what the latitude is. Anyway, or longitude, whatever. I'm interested
I
now.
know an atlas. I'm gonna go check that.
Yeah, I'm interested now.
I was going to say I'm waiting for the
north and south.
I'm waiting for the compulsive checker to start doing his thing.
Are you referring to me whenever you say that?
Yes.
Get in here and educate these people.
Okay. Let me educate.
The Marine is coming.
Marines have landed, and the situation's well in hand. Wait, let me demonstrate.
Oh, we're getting a demonstration.
It's Albuquerque, New Mexico, is what you're talking about.
Yes, and Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah, so Augusta is a bit south of Atlanta, and Albuquerque is actually just a bit north.
Yeah, just a bit north. Yeah, it's like 35 north versus 33 north for Augusta. So we're just barely south of that.
But you're currently in Alpharetta.
I'm currently in Alpharetta, which I believe is further north. So say hi.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hazel's saying hi and good night. Here you go.
Hi, Hazel. Good night.
Hello, Hazel.
Oh,
Good
here we
night.
go. It's the customer. Oh, she finished. She finished. What's it called? The Return of the King movie tonight.
Hey.
They're saying yay. It's home tonight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Hazel.
All right. She's been telling me she can't wait until she can be in the brood meetings.
My heart.
I know.
I can't, sir.
Mhm.
Mine's asleep. Please.
I cannot.
It won't be terribly long.
I could not find my actual
Sorry,
atlas.
not
The only
shorter.
thing that I could find is my
Alex.
map book of states of the United States written in the style of Tolkien.
Hello, Ian's father.
Oh,
Hello.
who am I talking to? Is this the brood?
Okay.
What is this?
This is the Brood. That's Joshua. That's Brendan. That's his name escapes me.
Alex, or no, Aaron and Alex.
Okay, who has the cowboy hat?
Aaron and Alex.
Alex has the cowboy
Alex is
hat.
the cowboy hat.
I have the top hat. Joshua.
I'm Aaron.
Aaron doesn't have hair. Well, Aaron is.
Well,
doesn't
I
a
have
hat.
hair. It's just my camera though.
You're right. I
Who's
don't
the
have
one
hair. This is true.
Brendan.
Brendan. Okay, Brendan has hair and a beard. Okay.
I do. Yes, this is true.
Is it Josh with the top hat?
Joshua has the top hat.
Joshua
yeah.
has the top hat. Okay. Anyway, here's how you can remember it. Everybody, do you guys know what your latissimus dorsi muscles are
I do, actually.
when you're blind? They're the ones
Yep.
here in the back. When the bodybuilders are doing their thing up on the stage, they
Yeah.
flare
Yep.
the lats.
Yep.
Well, that's how you remember what latitude is. Latitude lines go this way.
There you go.
The latitude lines go from the equator. Equator is 0, and then you go all the way up to the North Pole is 90 degrees, and all the way down to the South Pole is 90 degrees. So the latitude lines only go to 90 degrees. The longitude lines are the ones that run from the North Pole to the South Pole. They're longer. Because the latitude lines, as you get closer to the pole, since they go around the Earth, they actually become shorter.
Makes sense,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? They're tapered up towards the top, but towards the bottom. And the longitude lines run from pole to pole, and that's how you measure. The longitude lines are the ones that go up and down on the map, and that's how you measure east and west.
Mm-hmm.
How far east you are, or how far west you are from the prime meridian.
Yep.
In Greenwich Mean Time. Okay. So how far are you from the prime meridian? 180 degrees from the prime meridian is the international date line. That's on the other side of the Earth from England, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean somewhere. And so the latitude lines, they help you tell north and south, how far you are north of the equator or how far you are south of the equator.
Gotcha.
That's what because the equator is 0. The smallest, I guess, the smallest line of latitude you'd be able to stand in the middle of it would be all the way at the North Pole or all the way at the South Pole.
Mhm.
And that would be 90 degrees.
Okay.
Sense. Thank you.
Very cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, that's an easy way to remember it. Is latitude is you're reaching out with
Lateral.
your lats.
Yeah, lateral.
You're going laterally from side to side.
Yep.
And latitude lines tell you how far you are from the equator.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Abigail.
How are you all doing?
Not bad.
Doing well.
Good to see you. Good to have you.
Yeah.
Everyone who has said that they might be here is here now, so that's really good. We have a pretty good crowd tonight. No clue if Sarah will join us. No clue if we'll get anyone else, but we've got a pretty good group. Daniel said he wouldn't be here. He's got psalm sing tonight, so that's good. Yep. So I guess, does anyone have to get going early or anything of that nature? Kind of get a little bit of a schedule going.
I would like to get going earlier.
Sure.
I would like to have Ian and TK be around for mine, so that means I would also like to be early.
Okay. Anyone else?
If that's the case, can I go first?
Go.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Because what you're gonna do is you're gonna duck as soon as you're done.
No, I'm gonna stick around for yours. No, what? You go ahead and go first, and I'll read mine after yours. How about that?
All right.
This sounds good to me.
I shared in Green Dragon Tap Room a PDF that is mine. You might want to actually physically read along for this because it's in script form, not in novel form. It is.
Okay, I'm open now.
It's a TV script, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't translate well, and so I'll do my best to speak it out loud. But normally, this is meant to be read by a bunch of people around, so you have been warned.
What do you want me to do for the broadcast? Do you want me to have a link, or do you want me to leave it out, or just?
I would prefer you to leave it out.
That's fine. People can hear the audio version. Then I just wanted to be clear on what you wanted. So go ahead.
Sure. So this is what I'm asking about is, or what I'm reading is a scene from the pilot episode of a show I'm trying to write. It is the second scene in the show, and it is after basically the introduction. It's very short. This is within the first 2 minutes. So we're starting in the lower part of page 2, where it reads Interior Council Hall Day. In a well-lit building with large windows that allow plenty of sunlight, around in a C-shaped table sit the elders: Garrett, 47, Stephen, 38, Luke, 45, Bartholomew, 72, and Jacob, 52. These are the leaders of the village. Deep in discussion, the weight of the issues plaguing the village are heavy on their minds. Jacob sits on the council, listening to the topics, though his head and his hands show how wearisome the constant discussion has been. Garrett, somewhat exasperated. How much longer can we reasonably expect to wait? Luke, I understand you're impatient, Garrett, but what do you honestly expect? Garrett, we've been dealing with this blight since the beginning of summer. Sure, we managed to slow its spread, but are we any closer to stopping it? Stephen, it has been infuriating how slow progress has been. No offense to our herbalist. He quickly glances over at Jacob, who remains silent as the discussion occurs. Garrett, no, she's been amazing. She is the only reason we have anything to harvest at all. He gives a defeated shrug. But we're still just trying to mitigate losses at this point. We need to start curing the land if we want to start making enough food for everyone again. Bartholomew, the most revered of the group, stirs from his sleepy-like state. Bartholomew, it seems as if the war, for all the terror it holds, was a blessing from above for us. There's a beat of silence. Stephen, less young men, less mouths to feed, but less workers to help to try to solve the issues, never mind those who have fallen sick. Garrett, that's why I think we need to at least listen to what he has to say. We don't have to commit to it yet. Jacob stirs and raises his head, looking around. He nods to Stephen, who rises and goes to the door. In walks Jasper, 29, a charming salesman who is dressed very well. He carries with him a briefcase, like a bag that is decorated, or a briefcase-like bag that is decorated in similar accents. He walks with rehearsed confidence and gives a humble smile. Jasper, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to listen. Pauses for a breath. I do not envy your position, being in charge of your village during not just a national crisis, but also a local one. I can't imagine what the pressure is like. His statements are carefully calculated and practiced, and so far they seem to have their effect. Each of the elders nods in appreciation of the acknowledgement. My company has been a leader in pushing the boundaries of what we can know and what we can do. Part of this includes how we can increase the yield of farms. I know you each have tried to become more efficient, taking steps to increase yield within your limitations. In helping our clients, we discovered something interesting. The farmers with the highest yield often had a unique kind of soil. This soil had something in it. After months of testing, we figured out how to replicate it. As Jasper talks, he opens his briefcase, pulling out a few samples in some kind of clear container. He has 3. One small stalk of a plant, one larger, healthier stalk of a plant, and one withered and darkened stalk. He holds up the small stalk. I have 3 samples of a plant here. This one is grown in the soil where the compound was absent. This was plucked after 2 weeks of growth. He holds up the larger stalk. By contrast, this is what the same plant looks like when grown in soil with the compound. It is bigger and bearing more fruit. What is even more exciting is that this is what the plant looks like in just a single week of growth. That got the elders' attention. Jasper knows he has them hooked. He just needs to reel them in. Luke, just a single week. Jasper, just a single week. Stephen, and is this a consistent result? Jasper pulls out a booklet. Jasper, it is. I have here a series of testimonies, each confirming what I am telling you. Garrett, trying to be even-handed. As good as this sounds, will it solve our problem? Jasper, well, I guess we can find out. Jasper holds up a third withered plant and another vial filled with a bright blue liquid. Here I have one of your plants, as well as the compound specially combined with a reagent designed to help the plant absorb our compound. The elders look around. Eventually, eyes fall on Jacob, who looks at Jasper and gives a nod of approval. Jasper pours the liquid into the container on the plant. It foams and froths. However, the plant seems to become a bit greener and seems to gain strength, straightening up and opening its leaves outward a bit more. Luke and Stephen are fascinated. Garrett looks relieved, while Jacob and Bartholomew don't show any emotion. Luke, that is most fascinating. You said this compound comes from the soil? Jasper, it is found in soil. However, we worked carefully to replicate it so we can infuse it into the soil ourselves, allowing farmers to increase their yield without touching the actual plants themselves. Stephen, so this isn't how your solution would be implemented. Jasper, now unsure since this wasn't part of his sales pitch. It is unlikely. We haven't tested this effect on regular plants. However, if it has this effect on your plant, I suspect that your soil just has an extreme deficiency, and this blight, as you call it, is an unfortunate coincidence of your soil not being able to replenish the trace amounts of this compound for whatever reason. Shrugs. I'm out of my depth here, but that's what would make sense to me. Garrett. Makes sense to me too. What would the process look like? Jasper. Well, once we agree, our technicians would come out and survey your land for free. We then calculate how much we need and, well, the most efficient path and method. Then execute on the plan. The whole process would take a few weeks. At this point, Bartholomew sits up straighter. Thank you, sir. While I think it is obvious we are interested, I hope you understand that we have a process. May we keep these samples and examine them ourselves? Jasper, expecting this. Of course. Please take your time. Take the time you need. You can also have the information packets. I, unfortunately, need to return tomorrow, but you may keep the samples. I will follow up with you when it is convenient. Bartholomew smiles and nods and gestures to the door. Jasper gathers his things and leaves. Stephen, that was an impressive pitch. Garrett, more importantly, he showed us that it can work. Bartholomew, yes, but we can confirm on our own. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. As is, I believe a quorum would make a yes vote pass regardless. However, we should at least bring our local expert, no? They all agree, and Stephen rises to fetch Ava. Cut to the interior town hall day. Jasper's on some kind of communication device, like a really old telephone where the earpiece and the mouthpiece are separate. He's talking to his boss. Yes, I think I got them. They're desperate, but they need to go through their process. I think they have a village herbalist. I don't know them. No, it shouldn't be an issue. I'm certain they'll close soon. Cut to the interior council hall day. Ava. It can't cross water. Ava now stands where Jasper was standing. Despite her being here multiple times and despite knowing all of these men closely, there is a certain apprehension. Being the village herbalist at such a young age weighs on her, and the fact she is almost 2 decades younger than the closest elder in age doesn't help matters either. Luke. How can you be so sure? Ava, I was doing my night study and noticed that whatever this blight is, it doesn't seem to get across any running water. Garrett, assuming it is something to begin with. That catches Ava off guard. What do you mean? Stephen. A delegate from company name here arrive. He proposed a theory that our soil was lacking some compound that helped the crops grow. They gestured to the samples still on the council table. Luke, we were hoping you might grant us your expertise. Ava looks over the materials quickly, while the rest of the council looks on. After a beat, Luke. Before this change of events, you were saying something about water? Ava. Yeah, there is a spring in the forest. The blight doesn't seem to spread past it. Furthermore, any blighted plant that touches the water seems to disintegrate. Ava continues to study. Stephen, is that something we can use? Garrett sighs. As much as I love building things, I don't think making man-made rivers through our farm fields would be worth the time or effort. Ava, distracted. And what little rain we had hasn't destroyed the afflicted crops, so whatever it is seems to be limited to spring water. Silence for a beat as the elders look at each other. Bartholomew, gently. My dear, you know how grateful we are for everything you do. We can get your views on company's method later. Do you have anything else for us? Ava, still gathering herself. Well, I would like time to properly examine this sample, but if this is an efficient solution right now, I can't suggest we not use it. Bartholomew. Then we shall discuss this in our time. I motion to adjourn the council. Jacob, second. The other elders agree and all leave, except for Jacob and Ava. Ava stares at the plants with a look of despondence. After a moment, Jacob walks over and puts his hand on her shoulder. Are you all right? Ava, trying to hide her desperation. I don't know. I knew this wouldn't be easy to figure out, but I didn't even think to look for deficiencies. Jacob looked on as she pulls away from him, pacing around the floor. It just doesn't make sense. If it was a deficiency, it would either affect everything all at once or through inconsistent patches. But we've seen it spread across fields. Jacob, no, I agree with you on that. Ava, but that is why I've been assuming that it's been some kind of infection. If this is right, then everything I've done has been wrong. There's a pause as Jacob looks on tenderly at his daughter. Sweetheart, you know that isn't true. Ava's shoulders bunch up, her hands in a fist as she tries to maintain composure. My gut tells me that this is wrong, but that isn't a reason to stop it. Besides, if it helps Mom, your mother would have you go with your instinct. And what would you say? Jacob leans back, looking up at the ceiling. He's carefully choosing his words. I would say that there's nothing wrong with doing due diligence as long as it isn't a way to avoid doing what you believe is right. Ava looks away. She knows she avoids conflict, so this is a tough pill to swallow. Jacob, you are a wise girl, Ava. Your mom and I are very proud of you. Tears well up in Ava's eyes, and quick as an arrow, she is suddenly hugging Jacob very tightly. He's much larger than her, but he's still very gentle with his daughter. Thanks, Dad.
Who wants to speak about it first?
Okay, so I have a question. What project is this for?
Do you remember the story I was proposing a while ago about an angel and a gardener traveling through the Feywild?
I was wondering if that was that one. Okay.
Yeah, it's that one.
Okay. That helps, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was well written, and I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
What was
I really enjoyed it.
That's the problem. I don't have a good specific question about it other than, I don't know, like, I'm trying to walk this fine line of giving just enough information so that people aren't confused, but not giving too much information to bog down and make it drag necessarily. Like, to a certain degree, there's going to be a certain amount of dragging in a couple of episodes just because the characters need to be developed to, like, you need to establish who they are. And especially with slower burn stories, there's a certain amount of sitting that has to happen. But, like, all the characters who spoke, Ava's the only one that you're going to see last episode 1, except possibly in the last episode when she comes back to the village. So, I guess I'm wondering if like the establishment of the elders, like I don't want to ask if it's too much, but I
Not for the
almost want to
script.
ask, is it too much?
Not for the script. It's going to come across in animation. It's more direction for visual than anything else at that point. You do need some of that world building for the visual, but it's not going to come across except in the visual and in the rest. You do need that for the visual. There were a couple parts where I think you went a little bit too expositional, but there was only like one, honestly. And it was a small anecdotal thing. I'll find it later and send it to you. But yeah, I did enjoy it. It's definitely setting up the world. It feels kind of Legend of Korra-y without being the weirdness that is Legend of Korra, but it's like technology-wise, that's kind of where I'm seeing it. And so with the phone and all that other kind of stuff, and so it's still giving fantasy vibes while having some technology. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Ghibli, but sure, okay, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they kind of took it from Ghibli, so it's all good. But yeah, Ian, he's been wanting to hear your thoughts and TK's, I'm sure.
Okay. I guess say that you, Aaron, you got a huge echo. Can you put yourself on mute?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I would say that you struck that perfect sweet spot between too much exposition and not enough. That would be my one comment on it. I liked the characterization of the elders and the meeting that they had, actually, because it explained a lot about where you're going with the story. So we're not just plopped in the middle of something and have to are just completely lost. Now, authors like Stephen King and to a lesser extent Charles Williams can do that, but most people cannot and should not.
Another thing that I thought was good about the elders is it established that these people are not idiots, which is very helpful. And them asking specific questions about how things actually work, and the salesperson not knowing shows where the intelligence actually lies, and that's important for the story going forward. That's something that a lot of people forget to do, and they make the elder characters or ruler characters or king character or whatever, they make them look stupid just because they're lazy. But that was something you did very well.
Well, you have to realize I'm Presbyterian.
Right.
And so I'm kind of basing the elder group off of a Presbyterian model where you have like a group of elders sort of a decision, sort of. And I want to make sure that they are intelligent. I didn't want to make Jasper come across as stupid.
Right. No, he doesn't appear stupid, but his intelligence level is lower, and it's clear he's more a middle management kind of situation in whatever's going on than like some kind of actually evil character or prankster or jokester or anything of that nature. He's just
his
doing
intelligence
his job.
is obviously not in the actual stuff that he's selling. His intelligence is in the process of selling it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Good.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to bombard you all with questions, but Ava, going from, did you get I guess, I was trying to get her be thrown by when Garrett interjected with this thing, and her, like, getting completely twisted and starting to feel, like, desperate. Was that too heavy-handed, or was it not come across at all?
None of that was in her dialogue to where it was over the top. Go ahead.
Right back.
None of that was in her dialogue to where it would be too over the top. Your words are guiding the animation process or the visual process, whatever it ends up being, to where you're going to, and with that is not something that they're ever going to read. That is something they are going to see. And so your level of giving it needs to be there for her to be like looking, the veins popping out, all that, whatever you're trying to do to get that across, that needs to be there. And so you're giving enough emphasis to the right people in this case, is my point. So, yeah, you did a great job there. TK, did you have anything?
I definitely think you did a great job with Ava. This is definitely a character that I would have loved growing up. She gave me Disney vibes, along with Aerith.
Okay, you just paid me the best compliment by saying Aerith.
And even with just the middle management guy, the salesman guy, I did get the feeling that this company is a lot like Shinra. I mean, now, I have not played this game. I have only watched playthroughs. I've only watched clips.
Final Fantasy VII for anyone wondering.
Yeah.
They do give me like Shinra, and then I'm trying to think of there's another like Novacom. Give me Novacom vibes too.
Adventures in Odyssey, yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I want to, and I haven't read more, so I don't know if I really want to play Jasper up to actually being like evil, or if he's just, I'm a salesman for this company. This is my job. It's my job to sell. I don't deal with the aftermath. And so that's why, like, I'm trying to figure out. But you're right in the sense that the company it doesn't care enough. It only cares about short-term gains. It's not looking at long-term effects. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be something that plays back eventually when later on it's the character, she finds out, it helps short-term, but it also causes long-term damage potentially to people through increased like comorbidity, disease risks, increased like not diabetes specifically, but gluten intolerance is what I'm thinking. Potentially ADHD, cough cough, yellow dye number 5, cough cough. Things, that's sort of what I'm taking inspiration from, but I don't, like, again, it's not that I don't want this to be, like, the company is bad, in my opinion, but these guys aren't going to be the big, bad, evil villain arc. They're just the thing that puts a timer on the main character.
Right. It's more of a industrial neglect than an outright malice.
Yeah.
Yes.
The salesman character just be projecting here, so you don't have to take a word of advice that I'm about to say.
Okay. No, fine.
If I were you, I would write him as just simply ignorant, and then he has sort of a revelation, if you will, that his company is doing something really bad, and then he tries to stop it, and then they try to silence him. And then he has to decide, do I really care enough about this?
I would agree. The one like actual critique that I had was the phone call that he makes.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the only thing that was too heavy-handed, in my opinion.
Okay. If I am being honest, that was me cheating. I didn't want to have him leave and then a repeat of Steven coming up, getting Ava, and coming back. I really wanted them to cut to like, because in my head, the way I envision it is there's stuff going on and you hear Ava say, it can't pass through water. And then you cut to, then you see it, right? The way that the thing is cut. And so that's me that was me trying to sandwich a scene in there so that I could have that cut while it's being invisible. But I'll try to.
I have a suggestion for that. If you do want to cut that scene, what you do is you have the salesman offered a glass of water or something like that before he goes, and as he's drinking, you have the voiceover. You do like a close up of him drinking, and then it can't pass water. You hear her voice over his thing, and then boom, cut to later. Then underneath little text it says, 30 minutes later or however long it takes to get them
Yeah.
there, right? But just do that, and it keeps the pacing moving a lot quicker, right? Like it gives you the feeling that the elders are actually like putting the rocket pack on this. Does that make sense?
I like that a lot. Let me write that down real quick.
And if you
So
don't
I'll
want
see
to
if
do
I
a
can
drink
read-
of water, there's other things with water that you can do, but use that as a cue into her voiceover into the next scene. So it's not too artsy, but because it's meant to keep the pace up. It's not something that's super indulgent, but it's artsy enough for what you're doing. It doesn't feel out of place.
Okay. Thank
Cool.
you, guys. Thank you for humoring me and letting me go first. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for going first.
Thank you for valuing my opinion.
Ian, you have written more work than I have in my entire life.
Thank you.
I mean, that's a low bar because I've written 0, but...
I was going to say, he's published more work.
Published. Yeah. Thank you.
I did it mostly because I was bored, but that's a story for another time. So would you all like to hear more of my short story, Bad Attitude, or maybe something else?
I've been enjoying Walter. If you feel like a change of pace, though, like for your own sake, go right ahead.
I'm
I've
asking
been
the
enjoying
guys.
Walter too.
Okay, more Walter it is then.
All
right.
If you feel like you want to do something else, I'm good with that because I've enjoyed everything that you've written. But I have been enjoying Walter.
Walter.
Okay.
Walter.
There it is. So in this next scene, Walter is waking up. Well, he hasn't actually slept, but he's awake in the morning after witnessing a grisly human sacrifice with his girlfriend, and he's trying to deal with all the emotions and the stress of having seen that. And there's another part I'm going to read tonight where he goes to I'll say a charismatic leaning church. I'm going to say some really mean things about what I think about charismatic churches based on personal experience. Go ahead.
You said he saw a sacrifice with his girlfriend, or you saw his girlfriend sacrifice?
Oh, he saw
sacrifice with his girlfriend.
His girlfriend saw the sacrifice with him, and she is also dealing with the stress of that.
Okay, so at present she is still alive. Okay, that's all I need to double check.
She's fine. She's good.
Why?
In fact, she appears that. What?
Why did they see a human sacrifice?
He's aware
They
that
have
there are
the
weird things going on.
Okay, I guess I'll rewind a little bit. So they saw Walter was on a fact-finding mission. Basically, they were getting these weird radio signals from his girlfriend's neighborhood, and so they were out in her backyard listening to these radio signals, and then they see a flying saucer over her neighbor's house, and they go and they look in the basement windows, and they're performing a human sacrifice. That's why they happen to witness this, and now they're dealing with the emotional fallout from that. And this is where we find Walter, and I want to apologize to any of the people I might offend with the next few paragraphs, but also not apologize. If you're offended, maybe you should look in the mirror. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling for a spell, trying to sort out whether the previous night was simply a bad dream. I wished to God that it was, but I knew it wasn't. I don't know how long I lay there, but eventually I reached over the nightstand and grabbed the cordless phone and dialed Judy's number. Her drowsy voice came over the line. "Hey," I said. You okay? I barely slept, she replied. Please tell me last night was a dream. I wish it was, babe, I said. She groaned quietly. You still want to go on that bike ride? I asked. I'm sorry, Walter, but can we take a rain check on that? She asked. Sure, that's fine, honey, I said sympathetically. I'll see you after church tomorrow, she said, hanging up the phone. It was understandable. That was her first time being exposed to it, and something as grim as what we saw last night through the basement window. Hell, it was my first time seeing it, though I'd heard legends from my pa and a few of the old-timers around town. Wild tales of the witch folk that used to live in these hills, and may inhabit them still to this day, it seemed. I decided to take a ride on my bike by myself to clear my head. The steel monster roared through the mountains, leaving a trail of exhaust in its wake. This was freedom. This was the best a red-blooded man could ask for. Well, that and fewer restrictions. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw familiar red and blue lights flashing in my rearview mirrors. The wild wail of police sirens brought my ride to a halt. I pulled over to the shoulder as Sheriff Dunn approached my bike. Howdy, Sheriff, I said, removing my helmet. Walter, grumbled Sheriff Dunn. Do you know how fast you were going? No, as a matter of fact, sir, I responded. Sheriff Dunn grunted as he took out his ticket pad. Sir, I protested. Walter, you were going 70 in a 50-mile-per-hour zone, said Dunn. I can't let that slide this time. I sighed as he wrote out the ticket and handed it to me. They're wrong, said the sheriff. Who is? I asked. Everyone. When they say you're bad influence and nothing but a troublemaker. You're better than that, Walt. You need to start acting like it. I nodded. Placing the piece of paper in my vest pocket, I started the engine and drove back. My father was waiting for me in the barn as I drove my bike in. His arms were crossed, a stern look on his face. Howdy, Pa, I said. I just got off the phone with the sheriff, replied Pa. I heaved a deep sigh, waiting for the lecture. I'm disappointed in you, Walt, said Pa. But I can't rightly be mad. I did the exact same thing at your age. Even got my license suspended once. I sighed again, this time in relief. However, continued my Pa, I can't exactly let you off the hook. I'm revoking your bike privileges for 2 weeks. But Pa, how'll I get to school? I pleaded. I'll take you, Pa replied. Or you can carpool, your choice. Okay, I replied. I love you, Walt, my father said. But I can't have you acting up like this. Someday you're going to be in deep trouble. I nodded ruefully. Pa then engulfed me in his sinuous, hairy arms. He was not a man given to strong emotion, but hugs were not a sign of strong emotion in our family. Hugs were considered a basic human right. Simply saying good morning could warrant a hug. Walter? Said Ma as she entered the barn. Yes, Ma, I answered. Steve is here to see you, replied. I ambled up to the house, past the old tool shed and the chicken coop, and up the porch steps, where Steve waited for me in a deck chair. He looked excited about something. He said, standing up. Steve, I said nonchalantly. If I could talk tonight, that would be great. What brings you to my humble abode? I think I figured it out, he replied. Figured what out? I queried. What happened last night? Steve replied. I sat down in the adjacent chair, listening attentively. Reptilians, Steve said enigmatically. I looked at him like he'd grown a second head. It's a popular conspiracy theory, he responded before I could ask further. It posits that the world is actually run by reptilian aliens masquerading as humans. Steve, do you realize how bat crap crazy you sound? I responded. I mean, yes. But it's the only way I can make sense of what happened last night, he replied. Suppose it was reptilians, I retorted. What the hell are we supposed to do about it? No, Steve. I sighed. This was way bigger than I was prepared to deal with on my own. I needed more facts. I needed evidence that Connolly was involved in something shady at the very least, whether or not she was a reptilian. We need more evidence, I said. If only I could talk to Sinowitz. Why Sinowitz? Asked Steve incredulously. Sinowitz took some weird photos some time back, I responded. Found him on his camera the time I beat the crap out of him. I'd like to know where he took him. Well, there's no way he's going to talk to you, replied Steve. I'll have a word with him. He knows you're my best friend, I replied. What makes you think he'll tell you anything? Because I have an affable, charming manner, and people tell me stuff that they would never tell you, replied Steve. I gave Steve an incredulous look. You saying I ain't charming? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, Walter, retorted Steve. I had to laugh. This was pretty much why I liked the guy. He was kind of a dork, but he was smart and funny. Plus, he didn't hate my guts. All right, I said. You talk to Sinowitz. I've got another idea. I'm just going to need some help. I entered the former barn-turned-worship center, I hesitate to call it a church, that Sunday morning, and was greeted by an over-exuberant girl in a flower top and ripped jeans. I was wearing one of my best pairs of khaki pants, my best shirt, and my leather vest. Frankly, I felt a bit overdressed in these settings. Everybody seemed to be just wearing normal clothes. I was then greeted enthusiastically by a number of individuals, ranging from teens to middle-aged. So several of them tried to talk to me, telling me how blessed they were to have me. It's not that I hate people. I'm just an introvert. This was all a bit much.
Amen.
I took my seat in a small cushioned chair in the auditorium. Decor was techy, in my opinion. And the band took the stage. The lights lowered, and the big screen came to life, displaying some mediocre lyrics to a poorly written worship song. Bear in mind that I was raised Lutheran. Hymns, psalms, and ancient chants are my bread and butter. All accompanied by an organ and choir, of course. This was all me. The stage lights were too bright. The music was far too loud. People were dancing, clapping their hands, jumping up and down, like this was some kind of rock concert, which I suppose it was, just not a very good one. I remembered the time my pa took me to see Megadeth live. It was way louder than this, but at least Megadeth was good. The band sort of knew what they were doing, I guess. But all the music sounded the same, and the lyrics basically had no depth. Once I'd suffered through the worship time, we all sat down to listen to the apostle Connolly preach a mediocre motivational speech with some Bible verses taken out of context. Even the Bible translation she used sounded off. Let God help you be the best you, she said, to loud applause and amens. Rebuke the demon that says, I can't. There was a chorus of amens to that. I don't recall much else from the sermon, if you could call it that. Nor do I recall there even being much of a point to it. After the speech was finally done, there followed a prayer of too great a length and much too little substance, accompanied by some soft rock instrumentals, and the babbling of someone whom I believe may have been speaking in tongues. Then there proceeded what might loosely be called a communion meal. I nearly walked out after she butchered the words of institution, but I grit my teeth and sat through it. I needed answers. I abstained from the meal, of course. I had to white-knuckle my way through one more of those mediocre songs before the service finally ended. Connolly waited by the back door, greeting people as they left. Various other apostles stood nearby, offering prayer for those that asked for it. Looking her directly in the eye, I shook Connolly's hand. Her skin was cold. Once again, it sent a shiver down my spine. "Walter, is it?" she said as I was starting to leave. "Yes, ma'am," I replied. "Good to have you here," she continued. "Our church needs more young men like you." "If there were more young men like me, this church wouldn't exist," I replied. In retrospect, maybe I should not have said that, but I was tired, irritable, and 17 years old. Connolly smirked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You figure it out," I snarled in reply. I made my way back to the truck I'd borrowed from my Uncle Jimmy, started the engine, and drove out to Judy's house.
Very nice. At first, it has me on edge for him just because there can be a good church service in those things, but not usually. And specifically more so because Lewis has the whole thing in Screw Tape where he teaches the patient by nitpicking all the little tiny things about the people as opposed to the actual service itself. But no, Walter's totally going after the service itself.
Yeah.
He eventually gets to that. But yeah, I'd be like, chill, Walter, for a few more seconds. Okay, lady preacher. All right, we go. So yeah, but totally, man. I'm right there with you on that. I really do like the line. If there were more young men like me, there wouldn't be a church like this. I really did like that line. That's great stuff. So, Brendan.
Thank you.
You got some stuff on this one?
It's good. I guess maybe I missed it. Like because I have missed a couple broadcasts, but Walter's a werewolf, right?
Yeah.
He tries not to be as much as he can.
He tries not to be as much as he can. Okay.
It's not something he controls.
Yeah. And maybe it's just the nature of the short story, but I think if do not take this as this is what you should do. This is just my tendency and how I would want to write that last interaction. I don't know if you want the reptilians to know about werewolves, but first of all, if it's a megachurch-like environment, how would the pastor know what his name is? That might raise an alarm bell in his head. But two, if the reptilians do know about werewolves and can sense when people aren't just people, although to a reptilian, maybe all warm bloods look the same. It depends on your world building, how you want to do that. But I might have made a comment about, just a small comment about how after he said, if there were more men like me, this kind
of church wouldn't exist.
This kind of church wouldn't exist. Maybe I would have she gave a smile, but her head tilted slightly. What's that supposed to mean? You'll figure it out. And then have her for the brief then I would say something about how she seemed to get very serious for a moment before her instincts as a lizard
passed over her face for a second.
Yeah, something to show that her instincts as a creature take over her for the briefest of moments, similar to how Walter as a werewolf, if he does have heightened senses and instincts, he has that sort of animal side. I would have personally, I would have done that. But as is, you wrote it very well. It's very good.
You're saying you want Beast recognize Beast, right? Beast recognize Beast, yeah.
Beast recognize Beast. That's how I personally would write that. But from a purely critique of what you actually have, everything was great. I love the reptilians. It made I did this. You were doing that.
That's exactly what I wanted too.
You nailed it. You nailed it on the head. And no, it was great. That one thing I mentioned, I know I led with that, but it's because it was the freshest thing in my mind. But overall, you did a great job. Loved it. You're very consistent with writing Walter and writing your narration, which, as someone who isn't often, I respect that highly. So great job. Well done.
Thank you very much. I have a few more comments that I'm going to make myself. I'm sort of I just happened to think of the green lady from the silver chair.
Yep.
The reptilians are sort of like that. Like they're not so much they're not so much aliens as they're sort of like Nephilim, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like they have a spiritual quality to them, but they're also physical alien beings.
They possibly have JRPG rules where they're like, and now you will see my true form.
My final form.
That would be hilarious. But yeah, they're just these snake-like entities that take on human shape in order to deceive people. And I think that's to that extent, I think that reptilians are sort of real in a way, but just not like the conspiracy theories say they are.
Well,
I think that there are people out there that masquerade like that.
Well, and I know in D&D takes stuff from a lot of cultures, but there is a race of snake people that use deception primarily called Yuan Ti. I'm wondering where they get that from, because I'm sure it sounds like a cultural thing.
Yeah, it is.
You want to know?
Sure.
You want to know?
Genesis.
It actually comes from Robert E. Howard, the author of Conan.
Okay,
but also Genesis.
Well, yes, Genesis, obviously.
But yes.
Yeah, there's.
So Walter E. Howard. Okay, so they got it from there. All right.
Before he created Conan, he had a character named Kull the Conqueror. And in one of the Kull stories, he finds out that his entire cabinet is because he's the emperor, basically. He kills the old emperor and then takes his place. He finds out that his whole cabinet of advisors are actually snake people, and they're part of this ancient snake cult that has been trying to rule the world for millions of years or something like that. And that's kind of riffing off that myself here, but adding more of a modern spin on it and a little bit more of a biblical tone to it, I guess you could say.
Sure.
I know
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know TK wants to go. I know Aaron does. Last time it was literally just him and me at the end. I would love to have some more feedback from him from some other folks too, since he's been so patient. We can do however we want to do. What TK, do you really want to go next and then y'all bounce, or are you willing to hear Aaron and then bounce after you, or what do you want to do?
We can do Aaron after, and then we will have to bounce.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay, so you and then Aaron and then you bounce, or I'm not following. Or Aaron and then you and then bounce.
And then Aaron and then we'll bounce.
Okay, so you'll be here for Aaron's. Okay.
Yes, we will be here for Aaron.
Okay, cool.
Or at least
awesome. Thank you.
I'm trying really hard to bounce, but it's not working on this chair. I'm afraid it's going to. This isn't a bouncy chair.
We got tickers up in here. All right, so TK, okay. When you're ready, you can get going.
Finally, I have something new. Okay. This is not just edits this time. I recognize that y'all were bored. Okay, so this is chapter 9. These are all going to have titles eventually. Sarah looked across from her position in Tipperary Park at the ritzy Victorians that lined the opposite side of the street. She'd heard this was where the rich landowners lived, and across the park was where the poor workers lived, mainly Irish and Polish immigrants, before the Irish migrated to Tara Hill. It was the Irish who gave the park the name. It was here that they had protested the conditions of the salt mines and what was called the Battle of Tip. It was also the Irish that brought the knowledge of the Fae to this area, as well as the necessity of having a garrison here. The door of one of the Victorians, one with a sunburst painted over the door, opened to reveal Oliver and Lewis, or rather Prince Lou. They came striding her way. She lowered her eyes and bobbed a little curtsy. Excuse me. None of that, my lady, none of that, said Lou quietly. Does Ollie... It would be bally hard to share a house, even a house as large as ours, and not know, laughed Oliver. Sarah nodded and yawned behind her hand. I beg your pardon. She apologized. Another long night? Yes, this is getting rather troublesome, said Sarah. We should probably talk. The three began walking through the park towards the theater, which was closed today. Fred came moseying toward them wearing a slightly bulkier version of his normal mime garb. He pointed to the theater, then himself, then made his fingers walk across his palm. You? Asked Sarah. Fred nodded, then motioned for them to follow. He took them behind the theater and down a little set of steps to a metal door, slightly rusted, where a barely largeable Fallout sign was affixed. Fred pulled the key from the pocket of his pants and opened the door. Fred, how did you find this place? Asked Sarah. Fred then switched on a little electric lantern and formed a shadow puppet bird on the wall. A little birdie told you? Snapped Sarah with a smile. A handy place, this, said Lou. A little fortification would be a place where our enemies would break upon like water. Sarah, now what can you tell me about this beast? As tall as a man, maybe a little taller. Goat legs and horns, and a more goat-like face than a fawn. And no fawn would keep company with wraiths. He looked over at Oliver. We have to up your training, get you in shape. Oliver nodded, a little sheepish. Fred waved his hands to get their attention. Fred, it's just us. You can drop the mime act. He shook his head firmly, no. He pointed to his ear and then bird shape with his hands. I've heard the birds talking, asked Sarah. Fred nodded emphatically. What do they say, Fred? Your cousin knows the language of birds? Inquired Lou. Yes, is that good? Good and rare. Keep going, Fred. He made several motions with his hands and body, which Sarah translated. They say there's a darkness in the woods. The woods aren't safe. Fred gave a caw and waved his arms. The crows have fled the hill. What hill? Fred hunched over and minded pulling a rope. Hunchback. Behind the church? Up where we cross into Tara? Fred nodded. Is that all? If the crows have fled, it must be serious, said Lou. I recommend finding a new route home. A long way around, then, Fred. Fred saluted, demonstrating that he understood. Would you like us to escort you? Oliver said. That's sweet of you, Ollie, but no. The long way takes us past loads of houses. We wouldn't dare strike an inhabited area, right? If there are lights, it is unlikely, said Lou. They exited the old bunker and Fred locked the door. Lou set a hand on the smaller man's shoulder. I know you cannot speak currently, but you can listen. I want to fortify this place you've found. Sarah hung back with Oliver. She was worried about Fingal. She didn't want him to put himself in danger for her. Vickers was back to talk again. Oliver cleared his throat to get her attention. Would you, there's plenty of room at our place, and... Oliver, you're single dudes and I'm a single woman as far as anyone here knows. His eyes went big. Oh, I didn't think of that. I'm sorry. It's all right, Oliver. I know you wouldn't do anything of the kind, nor would you even consider it. But you know how people talk. He nodded. But, if you don't mind me asking, are you seeing anyone? Yes, said Sarah. His name is Finn. He stopped himself before blurting out his full name. Oh, really? Said Oliver, who sounded a little disappointed. Like? Well, he's very handsome and tall with long tow-head hair. Sarah faltered. He dresses all in black like Hamlet. He takes good care of me. He's a marvelous fighter, but he's also a sensitive soul, a poet and a singer. He suffers so much because he wants to help others. Oliver climbed up behind Seraphina as she continued to talk to him. He knows I'm in trouble, but I don't want him to come here. It'll hurt him too badly. That was the thought Sarah held all that day. Phil could not come here. He would be too hurt by her world, her family. Uriel was still resentful, and her parents were too scared of losing her. You'd have to find another way to defeat the monster. Sarah woke in the night, hearing a vicious growl in the backyard. She stood still for a moment, then gathered her courage and looked outside. She saw a chort standing on the sidewalk below in the yard, a massive shape, glowing silver with its own light. It looked like a very bulky, very large dog. It gave a bone-chilling howl and furled two huge wings from its back. It lunged at the chort and sent it running. The great beast gave a self-satisfied shake and sat down, looking at Sarah's window and wagging its tail. I'm going to delete the references to the chort because I don't know the actual name of it yet. This is the first draft. Sarah got her robe and some shoes and sneaked out the back door. Surprised the animal's howl hadn't woken the whole neighborhood. She stepped out to the backyard and looked at the dog. It was a lot bigger than it looked upstairs. I walked slowly towards her and seemed to bow to her. Hello, fella. Sarah held out her hand for it to smell. Thank you for scaring off that monster. Are you a boy or a girl? A boy, my lady, said the dog, which was actually a wolf. Sarah jumped back. You can talk? Yes, my lady, he said with another bow. My name is Kersha, and I was sent to protect you. The silver light that came from its fur dimmed, so he looked a little more like a regular wolf, except for his wings. Who sent you? Was it Fingal? No, it was another who wished you well that sent me. For service, for however long you require of me. Sarah rubbed her hand on the shaggy fur of the wolf's head. Well, I've always wanted a dog. She led Kersha inside and shut the door. He sat down very politely while Sarah turned on a light. Now, to business. Do you know why these creatures are after you? Creature? There's more than one? Yes, I've sent several around the area. Sarah chewed her lip. That's not good. No, it is not. Can you think of anyone who is angry with you? No, well, except for Uriel. Would she summon them? No! She might not like me much right now, but she'd never do that. Very well, said the wolf, curling his tail over his paws. I must ask this then. Have you seen any evidence of dark magic around? My brother-in-law has mentioned vandalism at the old mall by Lake Albion. You know kids, always messing around with things they don't understand. It's worth looking at. One who sent me to look after you has her suspicions as to who might be doing this. She can't be sure. Have you seen a tall, bony old man with a long white beard anywhere? I can't say as I have, but now I'll be looking for one. He might be in disguise. You can use this. He gestured to something hanging from his collar. To spot him. The mirror turns black if he's in the area. Hanging from the collar was a little silver mirror. Sarah carefully removed it. I will keep my eyes open for him and follow you around town. Sarah laughed. Kersha, you're not very subtle. He stretched out his wings and looked from side to side at them. I suppose you're right, but I can become invisible. You should have led with that. Then I'll stand watch on the roof of your house. Invisibly, I hope. Yes, of course. Last thing we need is the neighbors seeing Snoopy on our roof. A what? Never mind. Alright, we'll pause there.
Very nice. I'm digging the draft.
Love it.
Thank you.
Brendan.
Not fair. You're too dang good at what you do. Okay. I will say that the fact that it's a first draft is a little apparent. Having seen your final work, there's a few things here and there that are like, oh, okay, she needs to polish that. I can't think of one off the top of my head. You mentioned the monster Choya, whatever. I couldn't hear the words because the internet on my side is deciding to be finicky. Just good references. The doggo is good. The doggo's a good doggo. I do wonder, well, it is a spirit, and it's just taking the form of a dog, so it would speak properly. That would make the most sense. At the same time, you also led with it wagging its tail. So I wonder if maybe trying to squeeze in another dog mannerism or two might be not much, just a couple here or there. Maybe either just an action it does, like or that, or
She did have the tail curling over the paws, which was a good touch. But yeah, totally.
yeah, there was that. But I don't know how much of that you want to add. Because you mentioned that these things were like major spirits in a particular, like Scandinavian or something folklore, and so you might not want to give a major thing that kind of like personality trait, but it could be funny. I don't know.
Yes, Kersha's name actually comes. It's all Slavic mythology. The winged wolf is called a smergil, and it's from Ukrainian/Russian mythology. Okay. And the name Kersha is of a similar creature from Georgia, and Kersha just means loyal dog. It's like Fido in Georgia. So giving it more animal traits, like a creature from Narnia, would be perfectly fine. Okay.
Your decision on that, obviously. Take everything I say with 10,000 pounds of salt. But no, you're so annoyed with how good your little quips and jokes are, because they come out of nowhere, hit me like a Mack truck, and then leave. And I'm like, wait, hold on, did that just happen?
Aaron or Alex?
I got nothing. Honestly.
I thoroughly enjoy it. I like that you brought up that the Irish were the ones who brought the knowledge of the Fae to the area. That's cool. Artemis Fowl, if anybody's ever heard of it, love Artemis Fowl and the way that it interconnects Irish mythology with modern day, and that reminded me of that. Not in any like specific way, just like the Irish and the fairies makes sense. So
excellent
like
as always.
Thank you.
I don't have anything specific tonight, but yeah, I always enjoy listening to your stuff.
Thank you.
Aaron, you have something prepared for this evening?
Yeah. I do.
Okay.
I'm trying to make a decision again, though, because my chapters are generally pretty long nowadays.
Right, and you can do a partial chapter. You don't have to do a whole one. So just a part you really, really enjoy that you want to share would probably be the best choice.
Do I do the first or the second section? Yeah, I can split this chapter up into two sections, and I just have to decide which one. I'll do the second, right? Yeah. I'll do the second, since I know that the first one has a problem I have to fix already. It has a big info dump. So I'll do the second section of this chapter.
Sounds great.
I still have to explain a bit of what happened so far.
Sure, go right ahead.
Essentially, the main characters are a family of elves. The relations are notable. You have Eldwin, who is the daughter of Liena, and then there is her aunt and uncle, Athela and Adarian. Those four live together. And they live in this port town of Vardell. Adarian works as a rower, and he's employed by this other elf who's about 300, and the name of that other elf is Kadra. Kadra is also their landlord and also owns about a fifth of the property in the city. And he is trying to sway Liena, Eldwin's mother. Should I just read the first section?
It's up to you.
Yeah, might as well. Instead of just the second. All right, let's do the first one. But note, I know this info dump's a problem, but I really want to work on my ability to tell a story in the novel format, and I think description's what I really need to work on in general. I try a bit hard to do it, and I think I'm trying a bit too hard right now. Anyways, the chapter is called Sailors and Suitors. Okay. Chapter 1 of The Legend of Two Elves, Sailors and Suitors. It was a common superstition throughout the Seven Worlds that any venture which began upon the first day of the month, when the seven worlds aligned, would experience good fortune. Even better than this was to set sail on the first of Vithia's month, the peaceful elder of the sea, the advocate for those who travel there. She is far different from Death, her husband, who would bring sinners to the deepest graves if they dared enter his domain during the time of his power. It is quite odd to set sail at this time, when the tides are the highest they can be. Some cities build walls to keep out armies, but Vardel builds walls to keep out the sea, and flies to Vidau's cliffs for protection. Though sailors always love to set out upon the sea on this most noble of days, they must wait for daybreak, for the tides to calm, and for noon for the monthly floods to recede from the northern bay. The southern bay would clear quicker, but it resided alongside the cliffs. This would have made the bay nearly impossible to use had not the great fairy herself assisted the city 18 years ago. Kara flattened the cliffs which were sheltered by the cape of Namalea into a plain which descended into a brand new city. Seawalls were raised where needed to prevent the tides from seeking in. So a new city was established with the same name as the old, and people began to move there as sailors began to prefer this new port to the port of old. Adarian, a poor man of the city, would go with the sailors that day. This was a time for him to rejoice. He had been out of work for months, and was living off of loans given to him by his landlord, Kadra. Kadra, the most noble elven man in the whole city, was also his employer. Adarian was a rower by trade, for that was all he could be, not because he lacked skills in other areas, but because no man would hire him for any other job, due to his scandalous reputation. Kadra was the master of the docks of the Southern Bay and the owner of a fifth of the city's housing. The mayor could not compare to him in influence, nor could the count challenge his wealth, and even the prince's reputation was not as great as his own among the people of his city, for he was a fair, just, and generous man, who was a follower of Kara's way. Often sailors did not need new rowers, and because of this, Kadra claimed that he could not give Adarian any employment for months. But the first of the fifth month was bound to be the start of so many voyages that all who would sail upon the sea would be called upon, and so Adarian was called up. His family sent him off with tears, Athela his wife, Liena his brother's wife, and Eldwin his brother's daughter. Athela would send him off with tears and kisses, but Liena would hold her daughter. They could do nothing but smile and wave him goodbye. A handshake with Eldwin was the closest he could come to them, for fear of the people who looked on. "Stay safe," he said to Eldwin. "Watch out for your mother, and if anything happens, make sure you know who did it. You understand me?" "I do," Eldwin replied. "It won't be long, though. The ship isn't going far." "Just to Southport," Adarian said. "Still, anything can happen while I'm gone." "I'll watch out for her in the meantime," Eldwin assured him. He nodded in response. He went back to Athela, saying one final goodbye, before he took the bundle of things he always brought with him. The second pair of clothes, Athela's letter of love, and his brother's last gift, an old image of Nuna's heart. He stepped upon the ship he was given, and took one last look upon his city before he went down to the... Okay, I have a phrase in parentheses. Fine term for rowing deck, where he would labor. His family would travel back to their home through the streets of stone. Leanna began to bake bread with flour they bought using Cadra's loans. Othello would help, but she preferred to pass her time by stitching up holes in clothes. Elwyn's mind continually turned to repaying the debt her family was constantly accruing. At this point, they owed Cadra 1,000 Gadar, more than 3 years' wages. He had been kind to them in giving them all of this, but it was a loan and a debt which Adarian and his family could by no means escape. Lena required Eldwin to help her with their meal, not to think about problems they could not solve. She obeyed, but once the meal was done, Eldwin asked her mother if she would be allowed to leave the house. Her mother let her, provided she would be home before dark. 4 hours were left in the day, plenty of time to try and change things for the better. She stepped out upon the stairs and walked down to the city street. As the cold ground hit her feet, she realized how useless it all was. Or at least she felt that it was useless. Day after day, she tried to get someone to pay her for work. She asked vendors if she could help them, homeowners if she could clean, barbers to make her an apprentice. It all failed. The only place she did not try was the brothels, where it seemed people thought she belonged. Sometimes it tempted her, the easy way out, but she remembered that she still was not hungry. She could not think of herself going so low to pay off a simple debt, one that was not even hers. As she walked down into the market, considering her options, she passed by a carver's stand. She turned to look at the things he provided. There were bowls, cups, utensils, boards, screws, statuettes, games. All just wood. Does anything interest you? The vendor asked. Eldwin thought for a moment. I'd like a block of wood, she replied. The vendor laughed. That's kind of offensive, don't you think? Would you walk up to a painter's stand and ask for a canvas? I don't know how to paint, she answered calmly. But can you carve better than me? He answered. I don't have to. I still know how to do it, though. I grew up in Salos County by the mines. Trees and blades all around. Little me was bound to pick up the habit. So you'd like a block of wood and a competition then, or maybe a little lesson? He said, still jovial. Get out of here with that. Do you want to buy my stuff or what? She looked around the stall again. Every little thing on the statues he made was exquisite. She took a careful look at the birdling statuettes. I need to make these, she insisted, or anything. I need to help my family pay off a debt. I know I could. You want a job? He said. Don't worry, I get it. I'm not offended. I see you looking at those little statues there. Wish you could make one. Yeah, that's what I want. Hell of a way to say it, he said. But anyways, let me think for a bit and, you're that polygamous girl, aren't you? What? No, my uncle's not sleeping with my mother, she insisted. So you are the girl, he said. He tapped the board in front of him for a moment. Look, girl, I got nothing against you. Say whatever you want to say is happening. I won't say you're wrong. But your family has been excommunicated from every single church and tower in the city, and those kind of places are the biggest buyers here. If they knew you were my apprentice, I just can't. I understand, Eldwin sighed as she walked away from the building. She went to a bench on the edge of it all to ponder. There was nothing that could be done, as far as she could tell. Any work she could think of. It was all off limits, because everyone knew her family, and everyone believed they lived in sin. But there was one man who was still willing to associate with them. So, as much as it pained her to do, she decided to find Cadra. When she arrived at the manor, she knocked upon the servant's door. An elven boy about the same age as her opened the door. What is it? He asked. I'm Eldwin, Adarian's niece. He works for Kadra. I was wondering if you would be able to help me find work to pay off our debt to him. Eldwin, is it? I heard he was going to visit your house today. Give me a moment to check. He rushed inside and back out again in the blink of an eye. I just confirmed, and he is not here. He should be on his way to your house right now, and you should run to meet him. So she ran. Without forgetting to thank the servant, she rushed over to her home, only to find Kadra and Leanna in an argument. Why must you be absolutely convinced I have no good intentions in this? Kadra shouted. Why can't you see I'm not interested? Leanna shouted back from across the table. It doesn't have to be me, Kadra shouted. Just listen. You have 20 seconds, she replied tersely. Fine, look, I just want to help you guys out of this cycle you are stuck in, which all goes back to you. Your insistence on living with your brother-in-law and taking no husband leads to suspicion. It turned out terribly here, and if I just let you go wherever you want, a similar thing will happen again. I will help you survive, but ultimately, you need to marry again if you're going to improve your condition. No, Lena said. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Nobody except my late husband, God hold his soul, will ever be my spouse, and I trust Adarian alone, his brother, to preserve my chastity in this vow. Kadra groaned, as if he were about to berate a stubborn child. Why this continual insistence on stupidity? Do you realize how few people can believe that this is what you're doing? You won't get anywhere like this, not in Zirconia. And where else can you go? Besides, you're an elf. You could live centuries. Why would you abstain from marriage for all that time? Leanna's face was flushed with anger, but she was silent. Eldwin remained still in the doorway. Her eyes met her mother's. Leanna nodded to Eldwin, letting her know she was allowed to enter into her home. Eldwin did. She took a chair from the table and sat near the door. Athela sat on a chair far away from the table. She had been listening to their debate for the past half hour. Kadra raved on about reputation, happiness, promises, justice, marriage, and immortality. Finally, Athela snapped. Shut up! I'll speak now, you son of the witch. You, who have the luxury of living 200 years or more, may not realize how important even a dead spouse is to those who must go to meet them. I see this city is full of people who consider themselves so righteous, yet won't allow themselves to be judged at their proper time. Commonly, you meet a man who has aged a century or more here, and they think they are so brave, waiting to meet their maker. But if you'll offer us 200 of years of life, we will not take it. Just leave. We follow the more ancient way. We wait with the dead of Shothora. We keep the vigil. The poor must keep. We always have. You will not change that. Kadra huffed. Do you agree with her? He asked Leanna. She nodded. I give up, he said. Today I give up. You may see me tomorrow, but today I give up. Goodbye. He thrust himself off the table, threw open the door, and slammed it violently behind him. Eldwin bolted up. Where are you going? Leon asked. I'm sorry, this is a bad time, but I have to ask him something. Forgive me, Eldwin said, as she rushed out the door. Forgiven? Leanna said to her departed girl. Eldwin rushed through the street. Kadra! She called. The man turned around, surprised. Eldwin? I'm sorry. I know this is a bad time, but I have to ask you something. Yeah, this is a really bad time, he said. I'm not in the best mood with your family right now. I know, but I need to ask. Why can't this wait till tomorrow? He insisted. Why does it have to wait? The answer will be the same, Eldwin replied. Fine, he exclaimed. Eldwin gathered her thoughts. Look, I want to help my family pay off our debt to you, but nobody in the city will give me a job, so I'm just wondering if there are some strings you could pull to help me get a job somewhere. I don't think that will happen, Kadra replied. If you want to move up in life, you should maybe just leave home. You'd be better off that way. I'm not going to leave, Eldwin replied, but please help. Kadra sighed. Fine. I'll give you other advice. It would be best not to associate with your family at least. Your reputation can't handle it here. Mine can because I have the reputation of a desperate lover. You don't realize how much I have already done for your family. Your uncle could be executed under Aloran's laws, and so could your aunt and mother. Even if your uncle is innocent of the crime of polygamy, there's almost no way the court would find him innocent. This is the only place in Zirconia where your family is safe. And Zirconia is the only place in the world where elves can find a home. You may not like what I am doing by trapping your family in this debt, but it is honestly necessary if they're going to die of old age like they plan. Sure, you could decide to move to Southport and Zoloff because their polygamy is perfectly legal. But you, Leona's daughter, would be stuck in a world ruled by fairies, with your opportunity to connect with elves absolutely taken away from you, as they all travel here to their kingdom to make a better life. If your mother doesn't change her decision, I really do not believe that your family can be in a better place than under my protection. So if you want to know if I will help you pay off the debt, the answer is no. I will not help you. I'll help you craft your own life, safe in the knowledge that your mother, aunt, and uncle will be safe right where they are, but I'm not going to let you help their self-destructive behavior. Eldwin was shocked for him to lay it all out so clearly. She felt utterly disgusted at the words he spoke. It was the self-righteous ramblings of a man driven mad by lust as far as she could tell. So an idea came to her, and she blurted it out without thinking. Why then don't you marry me and let them move to Southport where they'll be safe from any accusations? If you don't think traveling in Zirconia would be safe for them, then let me travel to visit them once in a while. What could be better for our house? Kadra was shocked at the suggestion, but once he realized what she said, he burst out in laughter. That could not happen. Look, I'm literally 200 years old. If I remember right, you are 18. There's no law against it, sure, but it's considered absolutely unacceptable for anyone over 100 years old to marry someone under 50. I mean, sure, if you were absolutely astounded by me, then I could consider it in 32 years without being considered the most base man in the kingdom, but I doubt that's really what you want. Your mother will probably be dead at that time if she doesn't marry me, and your uncle and aunt would also be dead. So who would you be saving at that point? Nobody. Is that really what you want? Well, of course not, Eldwin replied. Good. Learn this, kid. Don't ask for things unless you know you want them. He waved goodbye and continued on his route through the city. Eldwin went to bed that night, embarrassed at her outburst. She couldn't tell her mother anything about what happened, except that she had asked Kadra for a job and he refused. When she was pressed, she clammed up. She couldn't admit to anything she had said. Her mother and aunts were curious, disturbed, and confused by Eldwin's behavior. They ultimately decided she was embarrassed at not being able to work. Nothing else made much sense. That is the end of the section.
Good work. Good work. Maybe a little shorter next time if you can help it, if you can swing it. But I really thoroughly enjoyed it. The initial info dump at the beginning is a completely different tone than the rest of the narration, which is a hard part. But outside of that, you've got a very interesting social story going on. Some other folks?
Extremely. All right.
Can we get some other thoughts around the board? Anybody?
What do you think?
You got me hooked.
Okay.
I'm hooked. I actively want to follow the rest of this story now.
Okay.
My
TK?
thoughts are that, pardon me, it's giving me. I really like the detail in the beginning because I'm a big fan of the myth of Hades and Persephone. But it's reminding me a lot of the old Comedy of Manners type of books, like Jane Austen and stuff.
I was thinking the
And-
exact same thing. Yes.
For some reason, I got the story of Beauty and the Beast for some reason. Not the Disney movie, the actual fairy tale. I don't know exactly why it's giving me that, but it's giving me that. And I like it. I see the spoiler face. Understood.
Yeah, what's going to happen before the chapter?
Brendan?
Before the chapter's over?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for next month.
Brendan or Ian, you guys got some stuff?
I thought the world building was good.
Through exposition, especially. I think you did a good job building the social structures.
That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. Is if you're gonna do world building, just don't do like the huge info dumps. That's my one complaint about Tolkien. And yes, you can go ahead and pillory me later. I'm fine.
It's all good. He's Tolkien.
Tomatoes.
I don't have a pitchfork, but I do have a regular fork.
Okay, you may prod me later. I liked the fact that you did it through exposition. That was good. The dialogue was good. Can't really think of any complaints off the top of my head. Some of the sentences were kind of weird, like when the ground hit her feet. Cold ground does not hit people in the feet.
Okay, what was that sentence?
I actually don't mind that one. I have some nitpicks, but that wasn't one that I necessarily would dispute, or let me rephrase. That's one that I would dispute, but obviously your writing style is different than mine, so please continue, Ian. Sorry.
No, that one just kind of jumped out at me, as it were. Wait, the cold ground does not do that. You can have her feet hit the cold ground, but you can't have the cold ground.
There.
hit her feet.
As her feet hit the cold ground. I can change that really quick.
Cool.
Yeah, I would, personally.
All right. Yeah.
As I don't think you gain a whole lot of poetic quality, I would agree with Ian, just because it's a nitpick, but it's one that would improve your writing. So
yeah, that's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So
Brett? Yeah.
I think your second half is much stronger than your first half, but you acknowledged that already. You know you need to work on the info dump. You can, unless this is like the first chapter and you need this information up front, and there's no way you can ever weave it in through dialogue or later on in the book, you can do that if this is the first chapter. Otherwise, I would try to space it out. Only bring up things as they become important. That was the rule I heard. But I'm different than you. So get that out of the way. The reason why I don't mind hearing the cold ground hit her feet is because it keeps you in the mind of her. And she's not necessarily thinking of, what am I doing? She's so focused on her goal that she's feeling the world hit her, rather than what is she doing. She's not thinking about what she's doing. She's chasing after him.
So yeah, the question becomes, how in her person do we need to be in that scene?
Right. So that's because
it's not first person,
and why it can go either way.
Right.
All right. That's what I'm going to say on that.
Cool.
There were a couple of points during the second half where you repeated yourself in sentences slightly differently, and I think that just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Like the one that comes to mind is where she is feeling like this is just the way it is, and then she thinks, no, this isn't the way it is, it's just how I'm thinking, or something. I don't know if she would think that in that scenario.
It seems a little circular.
It might be a corrective thing, but if so, you need to emphasize that she is correcting herself, right? You need to really drive that home more than you did. So just go through and see, are there any points where you repeat yourself by saying the same thing but in two different ways? And I would just like tighten that up a bit. And then honestly, I would make a chapter break there. And the reason why I would say a chapter did is because if your second half is as long as your first half, that's going to be a marathon for people. Yeah. And a lot of even novels nowadays don't have chapters that are that long.
They're almost just a scene, you know?
And frankly, as like, I hate to say this, but going back to the conversation about literacy and the Brood and like people not being able to read Lewis, thinking it's Old English, you almost need to think about what is the audience person going to receive, and will they feel the compulsion to slog through? Because ironically enough, giving them breaks gives them more incentive to keep going than not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a weird thing about psychology, but it's that popcorn, just one more. Oh, I already blew through that one. Let's just do one more. And that's what will keep people hooked.
Yep.
And the fact that Alex is raving and wanting to hear the next part shows that you've got something good.
Okay.
So that's why I would suggest putting a chapter break there. But again, as everything I've said up until this point, take everything I say with 1,000 pounds of salt. Everyone else here has published crap, and I haven't. So
I haven't.
Alex hasn't.
I would say I would definitely agree with that, making the chapter shorter. My favorite, as much as I reference Robert E. Howard, my favorite author is actually Edgar Rice Burroughs. And he was the master of the cliffhanger, without a doubt. He made his chapters short enough that you just got a little bite of the story, and you wanted more. And he always ended the chapter on the cliffhanger.
Yeah,
Jim Butcher does the same thing. After the first three,
I'll add on chapter length. You can get away with longer chapters near the end of a book.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
I just finished rereading Mistborn, the original Mistborn trilogy, and at the very beginning, you've got pretty dang short chapters. On the audio version, they're 10 minutes, something like that. 10 minutes, 11 minutes, maybe 15, something like that. But 8 to 10 minutes is about where you are. The last two chapters are 30 minutes each in the audio.
Yep.
So you can get away with longer chapters at the end whenever you're in the climax. You're in the climax of the story, and you don't want a chapter break. You don't need a cliffhanger. You just need to get going.
Yeah,
but
shorter chapters and more chapters may help me tell what is currently chapter 2, but will probably be chapter 4.
Right.
I do break it up. So do you think the first chapter should end around Eldwin failing to get a job or something else?
I think where you ended today could be a decent chapter.
Okay, so that
especially if you tighten it up and clean up the exposition section, you're going to end up taking some stuff anyway.
All right.
So,
all right, that would make 3 chapters at the start, and then I'll have to. All right.
Yep. Anytime you got some pacing issues, you can paste stuff in the Discord, and we can try and help out too. So,
yeah, we don't have to do it just on the last Friday of the month.
Yep.
Yeah. As far as exposition goes, if you want a good book that does like exposition dumps really, really well, Megan Whalen Turner, specifically the Queen's Thief series, does like just straight up exposition dumps, but in such a way that you'll look forward to it in each book. So, research.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Also, one of my favorite exposition dumps that I've read so far is in Warbreaker, Brandon Sanderson novel. That one is like in chapter 32.
With which one are you thinking of?
The one with Hoyd.
Yep.
with-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Well, since I know you guys got to get going, I am the last one. You can stay or leave, whatever you need to do. All right, you guys are heading on. I
See you
appreciate
guys.
you all so much.
We're calling it a night. All right, guys.
Alrighty,
It was
we'll
good to
see
see
you all.
Good to see you guys.
See you as well.
All right, have a good night. I've just started trying to make an effort to write again often. Aaron, are you trying to leave?
No, I'm just wanting to make sure that you guys have something to share.
Yeah, it's just me. I'm
Okay,
the
I
last
was
one.
trying to see if you were staying is all.
Yeah, yeah, we're sticking around. I think they're sticking around. You guys, right?
I am.
Brendan and
Nothing
Alex.
else to do.
I got a
For
short
now.
one, so. So I've been getting back into writing, trying to do one world, one chapter at a time. Just kind of going through like I used to, get back on the horse. So this is my latest one. Alex has read this one, but not heard me read it aloud. This is my zombie story. I actually started this one because I utterly hate the zombie genre, and I wanted to challenge myself to make something beautiful out of a genre that I genuinely dislike. And so this is a chapter 2 of the second episode, so it's kind of in the middle of outbreak zombie kind of situation. It's following a band called Meta Avenue. They are a kind of pop punk, well, not really pop punk, they're more like a folk punk band. Okay, they have folky melodies and some like sort of Fleetwood Mac influences, but play more like Yellow Card or something, right? So it gives you a little bit of an idea of their sort of thing. And they haven't hit it big, but they're traveling around and they're going to Wichita. And a zombie outbreak happens in Wichita as they're getting into town. And they're dealing with it. And they all have their own little arcs and stuff I'm not going to go into. But this is right after two of the I'll do the two characters in this. Jacob Forte is the leader of the band. It's his baby. He's the dude in charge. He has a girlfriend whom he charmed away from her family. They're fairly young. He's like 24, 25, and she's like 20, 21, something like that. He kind of charmed her away from her family, and she went off to live on the road with him and all that other kind of stuff. And she's freaking out. She's wandering away from the group, trying to get a signal, even though all the signal towers are down. She finally gets the tiniest two bars, and calls her dad, is able to have a very brief conversation with them. Please come get me, etc., etc. And then everything cuts out, and there's zombies coming after her, and Jacob shows up. So that's what we're jumping in with. This chapter is called Hammer Time. Leah, frozen with gripping fear, screamed her lungs out for all to hear. But as 3 zombies now quickened their pace, another figure emerged, their plans to erase. Time seemed to stand still as Jacob leapt from over in some nearby brush. The sight of him made Leah hope and stand in awe and hush. He ran in what seemed like slow motion. All were entranced by the glamour. He gave out a primal, bone-shaking roar and then swung a large sledgehammer. Blood, carnage, sweat and muscle, pounding, racing, chaotic tussle. Then 2 zombies lay twice dead upon the ground, and the third one snuck behind Jacob, making no sound. A single bite penetrated his shoulder, and he hollered in pain intense. He pulled away as quickly as he could, and to the ground he was sent. His right forearm hit the hammerhead and snapped like a tiny twig. The zombie decided he had had enough, so he ran off and hid. The crickets had long ceased their chatter, the cicadas their droning hum, when Leah was unlocked from her fear and ran to Jacob, stunned. The sun began to rise just then in dazzling bloody hues. Leah cried and tried to hold Jacob. "What did they do to you?" There you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
His poems are short.
Mine are short, man.
Sometimes they're longer.
I do have some longer ones, but yes, that's
Last
one.
time, well, last time I was playing Minecraft, and it took a whole Minecraft day.
I don't know what I read last time you were on.
It was a duel.
Okay.
I think within the Knights of Adonai.
Okay, so it was Brock. That was right.
yeah.
It was Brock versus William duel.
Right.
In
That
that one's a little longer. That one's a little longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of them are shorter like this. They're basically like song length. You know how songs can be anywhere from like 2 minutes all the way up to like 10 for an epic. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, read aloud. That's about where they're at. Other thoughts? Anybody?
I've already given you my thoughts.
Yes.
Once again, listening to it better than reading it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't say much except I really felt that last rhyme. You know.
What did they
where
do
it
to you?
ended.
Yeah.
I really felt the last rhyme.
That's good.
The last
Good.
line.
Brendan, nothing. Good.
The thing that stuck out, the only other thing that stuck out to me is describing the sunset as bloody. Right as bloody red, right as not sure what's happening to Jacob, but not a good thing is happening.
Right.
Good use of the word.
I had Can't Touch This going through my head
because it's
you
called
said
Hammer Time. Well, it's the series has the standard lack of decorum that exists within zombie movies in order to be authentic. I'm not trying to break the genre. I'm trying to work within the genre to create something that I like. So calling it Hammer Time is very much like a Sam Raimi move.
Yeah.
So
the only zombie thing I've ever seen, I'm pretty sure that's the truth. The only zombie thing I've ever seen, except from Minecraft, is the two Zombieland movies.
I like. There is one thing in the zombie genre that I do like is what was the name of that one? Now I'm forgetting. It's Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, exactly. Shaun of the Dead is fun.
I've seen things of that. It looks interesting. I kind of want to
Shaun
watch
of
it.
the Dead is very good comedy. That is, Edgar Wright does comedy very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when he knows what he's making fun of, and he knows what he's making fun of. So
exactly, and you can't say it isn't a zombie movie too, but it is primarily a comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you.
So. I've seen a bunch of video essays on Edgar Wright in a filmography sense.
Yeah.
Like the way that he parallels his camera movements. Just
Well, I'm fixing to wrap things up here. I'll go ahead and say, everybody, be your family's bard. Do not turn to the right or to the left, and the Lord will be with you wherever you go. We'll see you guys next time in the trenches on Poets at War.
This is the Broodcast, Inkling-style Discord chat, last Friday of every month. To join, go to joshuadavidling.com/Discord.